for round 10 of the 2022 Lamborghini Super Trofeo North American Championship. And while the season is closing down, the championships are closing up. Virginia International Raceway, one of the true magical racetracks in North America, built in 1957, closed for a while, but then brought back to life, and it is certainly full of life. All kinds of passing opportunities. Turn 1 is a great one. Then through 3, 4, up through the climbing S's to turns 11 and 12, known also as Oak Tree, then down the long back straightaway. Turn 14, you can get it done. Then you dive down through the roller coaster, through Hogpen, onto the front straightaway. You've completed a lap at this magical circuit, and hopefully you have seen the checkered flag first. Welcome in, everyone. Brian Till along with Jeremy Shaw. As I said, round 10 of 12 on the season, the last race here in North America before we move on to the World Championships in Portimao. Jeremy, I look at the race yesterday. It was a great one. And I look at the championships now, and 3 of the 4 championships are separated by single digits. At the start yesterday, Laura Spinelli on pole. Didn't take long for problems for the championship leader, Danny Formal. He spun at the start, a big kerfuffle behind him. And then Dario Capitanio, who was going to be penalized for contact with Formal at the start, has a mechanical issue. He has to pull off to the side. And then the urus shifted on its axis, it seemed. All kinds of cars going around. Slade Stewart drops a wheel in the climbing S's. He's around. Then Patrick Liddy spins while leading in his class. That's up in Oak Tree. Didn't take long for Damon Oakey to spin the same car again right after the driver changes. And then Anthony McIntosh had a problem as well aboard the 49 as he tightens hands there behind competitor in turn 3. Goes around, but in the end, big celebrations for the 88. Gianno Torino, Laura Spinelli, they take the victory in pro. John Capestro de Betz is going to win in Pro-Am, and that's going to be big in the championship hunt. We'll talk more about that just in a second. And Sheehan Sandra Soma wins in Am. Fear Levy in LB Cup. Jeremy, like I said, it was exciting yesterday. I expect the same thing today. Take us through the grid.
In car number 42, alongside Aidan Yoder in car number 53. Eduardo Piscopo in car number 50 will start 10th alongside Tom Long. Had problems yesterday in car number 25. Row 4, Gianno Torino in car number 88. Yesterday's winner will start back in the 8th position alongside the AM pole sitter Nico Riga in car number 48 for Precision Performance Motorsports. Excellent run in qualifying by the youngster. Brian Ortiz, his teammate in car number 47, will start 6th alongside another PPM car, John Castro Dubetz, who is the pole sitter in car number 46 for Pro-Am, 5th on the grid. Second row, Richard Antonucci, car number 23, alongside the championship leader, Carl Marcelli, in car number 1. The front row, Billy Johnson in car number 71, and on the pole position for the first time, Eduardo Liberati in car number 27 for Dream Racing Motorsport.
50-minute race here in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. Mandatory pit stop somewhere around the halfway mark. Your choice. You've got a 10-minute window and championships on the line. As I said, Jeremy, three of the four championships separated by single-digit points. Here we go. Liberati with a big jump aboard the number 27. Billy Johnson gets left in the dust just a little bit. Then right behind, Kyle Marcelli in the black and blue number 1. But Johnson coming back, perhaps a little contact there between the 1 and the 71. No harm, no foul. They are both continuing on.
It's a really tricky. There's a spin there. I think it's Eduardo Piscopo, a car number 50, who goes around in that Aero Electronics car for the Agera Change Racing US Racetronics entry. It isn't. It's car number 47. Brian Ortiz in the second place car in Pro-Am. He's sharing that car with Sebastian Carrazzo, and it's very, very tight in the Pro-Am Championship. Their teammates, John Capestro, DeBetts and Bryson Liu, lead by just 8 points over that pairing. As he goes for a spin, that was awfully tight. And also Tom Long and Ashton Harrison, who came into the weekend as the leaders with the problems yesterday. They're tied for second now in points.
Big off there coming through turn 2 at the start. Now Billy Johnson, talked to him at the beginning of the weekend. He said they have found some issues with this car that they have worked on and got things sorted out. And obviously they have them sorted out because he is right there on the rear wing of Liberati as they come down the back straightaway looking for an opportunity at turn 14. I don't believe it's going to be there this lap.
Famous last words. We'll see. We shall see. No, you're absolutely right. Eduardo Liberati, who was involved in that incident yesterday at turn 1 when he was trying to make a move, and he ended up nudging the rear end of Danny Formal, caused Formal to spin. This time he's out in front and he's stayed there. Really good first lap there for the Italian in that car number 27, and he leads the race with Billy Johnson hot on his heels in second place, and the championship leader Kyle Marcelli biding his time in third.
Biding his time, but for Kyle Marcelli, Danny Formal, they've lost 10 points to Gianno Torino and Laura Spinelli through the last couple of races. That over the last 2 rounds, they've lost 10 points to them in the championship. They've got to stop the bleeding there. But you talk about bleeding in Pro-Am, Ashton Harrison, Tom Long came into the weekend with the championship lead after the qualifying sessions, and a problem down in turn 1, 2 cars around. Start is under review. The car on the right there is the 8. See what happens. Oh, the 47 really kind of started the whole thing, got into the 13, and then rebounds off into the number 8. And that was really a problem that the 8 had nothing to do with. An innocent bystander there on the outside, and just kind of got driven into and around they go. That was Damon Oakey aboard the number 8. They had their problems yesterday. He and Patrick Liddy, perhaps still dizzy from yesterday.
Well, it's a good point. And in the first qualifying session yesterday, Patrick Liddy made a mistake by his own admission, spun the car and caused a little bit of damage, and that prevented Damon Oakey from going out in the second qualifying session, which was immediately afterwards, and that was the session that sets the grid for today's race. That's why the number 8 car had to start at the back. So it wasn't as a result of the dramas they had yesterday during the race. It stemmed back to qualifying, which Damon didn't run. But so he's now got some more work to do, because he's going to be at the back and more with that spin.
We understand there will be a penalty on the 47 for causing that collision there in turn 1. So not the news that you wanted, and I don't think it was egregious. It obviously wasn't a move that was untoward by Brian Ortiz or out of order. It's just the car got a little bit loose under heavy braking, wasn't able to control it, and that's the key. If he's not able to control the car and it affects somebody else's race, you'll pay a penalty for that, and that's exactly what Ortiz is going to have to do. It'll be a drive-through penalty for car 47. I was talking about championships, though, before that action in turn 1. Tom Long, Ashton Harrison led this championship in Pro-Am coming in here yesterday. After qualifying, it was down to just 1 point, but devastating mechanical issue yesterday while Tom Long was behind the wheel. And now Tom Long and Ashton Harrison third in the championship. They're tied in points with Ortiz and Carrazzo, but Ortiz and Carrazzo have 2 wins on the season. Long and Harrison only have 1. That puts them in third, and Ortiz, Carrazzo, Harrison, and Long 8 points behind Bryson Liu and John Capestro DeBetts. And that duo has just been on fire as of late.
Yeah, they have, and they had the pole position again today for John Competitor Jubet's GCD, so that's another championship point as well. But right now he trails Tom Long, who's got past in the number 25 car ahead. He made a really good start, did Tom Long. He started 9th in that car number 25, the red car, but he's moved himself up to 5th position ahead of JCD, so that battle is continuing there, and they're really in that same train of cars that's still battling for the lead overall.
Still a long ways to go. 50-minute race, a pit stop, mandatory pit stop in the middle of it, and for Tom Long and Ashton Harrison, this is the way the order needs to be at the end of the race. The 25 needs to be in front of the 46. They want to keep holding on to this championship battle. If it were to finish this way, it would be a 5-point swing, and they would only be 3 points behind in the championship. But Billy Johnson really putting the pressure on now. Eduardo Liberati, that red, white, and blue number 77 of Johnson, stuck all over the rear wing. And it seems like Kyle Marcelli, to me, Jeremy, is willing to sit there in third in that Prestige Performance black and blue number 1 and just watch the battle in front of him right now, because neither one of those cars in front of him on the racetrack are in front of them in championship points. So I think a really heady drive by Marcelli right now to not get involved in something he doesn't need to get involved with at this point in time.
Except he's not listening to you, Brian, because he just set the fastest lap of the race last time around in Kyle Marcelli, that third place car. The pace is improving now for all the leaders, pretty much everybody going faster and faster, just completed their third lap. And maybe on this lap he sort of settled back a little bit, Kyle Marcelli, but that black and blue car for Wayne Taylor Racing, representing the Paramus dealerships in New Jersey, and there is a team championship in this series, not just driver championships in all 4 classes, but it's an overall team championship, and there's an overall championship also for the dealers that are involved in this championship. Coming into this weekend, PPM, Precision Performance Motorsports, had a 1-point lead over Wayne Taylor Racing, and in a dealer championship, Palm Beach had a pretty handy lead over Paramus in the overall standings.
50-minute race, 20 minutes in, the pit stop window will open and it will close with 20 minutes to go. And so you'll have a 10-minute window in the middle of it to get your mandatory pit stop done. 81 seconds for 2-driver formats, 84-second minimum pit stop time for a 1-driver format. We talk about that a lot, Jeremy. That 3 seconds really takes the benefit or the beneficial benefits away from that single driver who knows what the car is doing and knows what the track is like. So he doesn't have that advantage out there. It's taken away by mandating, I should say, an extra 3 seconds on the pit stop, and that seems to work perfectly in this series.
It does, doesn't it? They've got some really good rules here. It's an inclusive championship, what I would say. I mean, anything they can do to make the experience more enjoyable for the teams and drivers in any way they can, they do, and it works. And that's why we've had such a growth in the championship this season. We've had as many as 36 cars on the grid. Unfortunately, last time out at Road America a few weeks ago, there was quite a lot of damage for various contenders. So we're missing a few cars this weekend, but we're not lacking in quality.
Not lacking in quality at all, and certainly not up front. This is the battle for second in the pro class that is diving down through the roller coaster, the red, white, and blue 77 of Billy Johnson, chased by championship points leader Kyle Marcelli right now. And Marcelli, I think, just took some laps to get that car dialed in the way you wanted to. And the other thing about it, Jeremy, they're not going to change tires on these pit stops. So the way you bring these Pirelli tires in also helps them in the long run. I think right now, Kyle Marcelli knows this car well, he and Danny Formal, and they've just been very diligent about the way that they go about their racing, and it shows. They lead that championship, and they have been at the top of the charts all season long. 4 wins on the season, but trailing them in the championship by 23, Gianno Torino, Laura Spinelli. They've won the last 3 in a row. I know Marcelli and Formal would like to get back to the top, take maximum points out of here, and that would help them going into the final rounds in Portimao.
It would, and that, that's the big picture here. But still, it's very, very closely matched. The top 4 cars running pretty much identical lap times. Richard Antonucci on the previous lap did set the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 46.237, just fractionally quicker than the 3 cars ahead of him. But it's really tight, and a little bit farther back here there's this other group as well, another group as well, who are running very, very closely matched times. Tom Long still leads in car number 25 in the Pro-Am class in 5th position. He's got John Capestro de Betz right behind him.
Flashing down the back straightaway, these Lamborghini Super Trofeo Huracan Evo 2s, so incredibly quick, just as quick. In fact, in the first practice session here this weekend, they were faster than any of the GTD cars in the IMSA WeatherTech Championship, and obviously track conditions play a lot in that. So do the drivers that are in the cars at the time, but just gives you a measure of how quick these cars are, how serious they are. They are every bit as powerful, and from a performance standpoint, measure up to the cars that you see here racing the IMSA WeatherTech Championship every weekend. And you and I have spoken about the growth of Lamborghini Super Trofeo in North America. I think you're seeing the benefits of it right here in the program that Chris Ward has built here in the U.S.
Isn't that right? And this battle up front here, it's really tight between all of these 4, very, very closely matched. We're still somewhere away from the pit stop window opening. This is a 50-minute race, and the pit stops have to be made in that 10-minute window. Anything after 20 minutes into the race and before 20 minutes remain in the race, and all the cars will come onto the pit lane.
Just touching the brakes to get through turn 10 and then up to 11, Oak Tree. And television doesn't do the elevation change justice, but in between 11 and 12 it plateaus. You cannot see the racetrack from the entry into turn 11. We see a lot of problems up there. It's a slow speed corner, but Jeremy, you and I both know that in tracks all around North America, sometimes it's the lowest speed corners on the racetrack that create the biggest issues. I think that 11-12 complex is certainly a complex here that's low speed, but incredibly challenging for these drivers.
Well, it is here on this lap now. Edoardo Liberati suddenly look a little bit more comfortable. Instead of having maybe a car length or 2 or 3 over the second place car, Billy Johnson, it's now probably 5 or 6 car lengths. So he's edged out a little bit on this lap. He's got personal best sectors in each of the first 2 sectors on this racetrack. The first one is fairly short, just the first 3 corners. But after that, he's gone fastest lap of the race at Edoardo Liberati. Really put it laying it down there in that car number 27, the Bitbull car for Dream Racing Motorsport, representing the Las Vegas Lamborghini dealership. And that gap now is out, well, closer to a second, so relatively comfortable for Edoardo Liberati.
Right, as comfortable as it can be, as it was so close earlier, as you point out, in a great battle just behind these top 4 cars. I think it was Tom Long and John Capestro de Betz through turn 4 side by side. It was in the trailing portion of that shot, but they were doing battle back behind. Indeed, it is. And Tom Long doing all that he can do to hold JCD behind him.
Yeah,
well, he didn't get it done because de Betz is in front.
Yeah, he is. He's made that pass, and coming into this race, JCD and his co-driver Bryson Liu, they've got a 7-point margin ahead over Tom Long and Ashton Harrison and Sebastian Krazo and Brian Ortiz. But with that pass, that would enable that PPM team to extend their championship lead in Pro-Am.
Heartbreaking problem for Tom Long yesterday. It ended up looking like the front suspension may have had some type of an issue when the car was finally stopped. In some still photos, it looked like perhaps the left front was askew, and he did a great job of getting it off the racetrack and not affecting anyone else's race, but it certainly was incredibly painful in the championship hunt. As I said, they fell from the lead now to third, some 7-8 points back, and it's one of those things that they need the best finish they can have here. And Tom Long, the last thing he wanted to see was that 46 get the best of him back there in turn 4, but Capestro de Betz is by, and I think beginning to pull out a little bit over Tom Long.
Yeah, he pulled out about a second on that last lap, and Tom Long now is going to come under pressure again from Gianno Torino, yesterday's race winner in Carnival 88. So we've got two of those Italian flag liveried cars here running in the top 7 positions. Richard Antonucci for Torino Racing by D Motorsports is in 4th position, and his teammate Antonucci in 4th position, his teammate Gianno Torino in 7th as well.
Jeremy, if you think about this, if indeed right now Antonucci teammates to Torino and Spinelli in the 88, in the latter going, that 88 gets up there with the 23. From a championship standpoint, are there going to be team orders to get the 88 in front of the 23? Because for Torino and Spinelli, they're second in the championship. They've won the last 3 in a row, and they're closing down on Formal and Marcelli in front of them.
There's absolutely going to be team orders. Don't collect each other. Stay apart on the racetrack. Do your battling by all means, but don't impact the other guy's race. That's really the only order I think will be given amongst that PPM team.
Well, I would expect it to be Luke Berkeley on aboard the 23 when and if those battles happen, and then Laura Spinelli. And Spinelli, I think, is probably one of the fastest drivers in the world in a Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2. So Luke Berkeley's going to have his hands full anyway if they end up in a battle on the racetrack.
Yeah, and these first 4, the top 4 cars still separated by less than 2 seconds. The last couple of laps, Edoardo Liberati hasn't been able to match the previous laps. Hasn't got the fastest lap of the race, 146.0, but fell off by 3/4 of a second on that last lap. And Billy Johnson and Carl Marcelli, who continue their battle in the 2nd and 3rd positions. Billy Johnson driving for TPC Racing in car number 71. He's representing the Washington dealership, Washington DC, and Carl Marcelli for Wayne Taylor Racing and Paramus in New Jersey.
I think the depth of talent in this series has become so impressive, Jeremy, when you look at drivers like we have up front, other drivers that are going to be getting in. I was talking about Laura Spinelli and his strength in one of these cars. He's a great sports car driver all over the world. It just really shows the depth that exists now in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. We were talking about this a little bit earlier. It has become a destination series as Tom Long, aboard the 25, now has Gianno Torino just behind him. This is not for position in class, but it is position on the racetrack, and it would put another car between Tom Long and John Capestro Dubets in front. But talking about the talent here, I mean, Billy Johnson, a Ford factory driver several years ago in their GTLM project, and in fact it kept him out of racing for a while because he was a platinum rated driver at that point in time because he was a quote factory driver. Great to see a downgrade given to him so he can come in race here, but it just shows the level of talent that exists here, and it's why the racing I think is so good.
I completely agree, and Billy yesterday was racing in the Michelin Pilot Challenge Series, finished in the He was running in the top 3, finished in the top 3 positions in that race yesterday. There's a bump there. Oh, wow. That is Gianno Torino.
That is, oh, no.
Yeah. And that's
oh, no. Now Tom Long is collected by another car. Talk about a bad weekend for Ashton Harrison and Tom Long. Gianno Torino got in there to the right rear and spun the 25 and then was collected by another car. I'm going to think that the officials may not be smiling too much on Gianno Torino for that contact, but it doesn't really matter. The championship is just falling away for Ashton Harrison and Tom Long here at BIR.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Full course caution that's going to bring out, and contact between those two. No, not yet. Let's have a look here. Gets inside him, just tries to push him wide. That's a very forceful move there by Gianno Torino, and unfortunately for Edoardo Piscopo, he'd been closing up on that little battle, and he was rather too close and unable to avoid that spinning car of Tom Long.
Yeah, that was, I mean, it looked like an awfully late move to me with the door closing, and it doesn't matter. We're full course caution. The pits are closed, and we were coming up to the pit window. It should have opened here in about 25 seconds. So that will be delayed, I will imagine. And I would imagine that the officials are going to have a look at that contact there and see if there will be any action taken.
Yes, I think so. It hasn't yet come up. There is a review of that, but probably a bit busy in race control right now. I certainly would expect that to happen very, 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 very shortly. And you've got a feel for Eduardo Piscopo there, just minding his own business, really. And what happened here? There's a replay of 27 cars slowing.
I believe the caution was out. I believe that happened probably right at the end of the straightaway. The caution was out. Billy Johnson went by, and I would think that that will be taken care of by the officials as well.
Yeah, it depends when the call was made there, but certainly I think we can assume for now that is what happened. But certainly Billy Johnson had really good pace in this TPC Lamborghini. He's going to be behind the safety car at the moment. We have to see whether he will redress that situation on his own or is told to give the positions back. Back.
The problem is a lot of times the officials don't like the whole give back thing because they feel like if you let that happen and you give it back, then you're enticing people to make a move under caution and perhaps not get caught. Be willing to take the risk to see if you're going to be caught or not. I don't know when exactly the flag came out. It would be interesting if we see a replay to see if the flag, the double yellows are out at the flag station there at 14 at the end of the back straightaway. Tom Long out of his Harrison Contracting Lamborghini. Here's the pass. There's the yellow clearly on the back straightaway. You see the double yellow there on the right. Billy Johnson obviously does not see it, and that's how that pass happens. So it'll have to either be given back or he'll pay a price for that. I hope that he doesn't pay a price, and perhaps they'll just let him have it back. Yeah,
and I think you're not allowed to overtake under yellow, so he can't really, he has to wait for race control to give him the order, I think, to move back behind. I'm sure he didn't do that on purpose. It was just he just was looking the other way when he went past that flag station. I mean, he's doing about 100, even at that point on the straightaway, you're probably doing 130 or 40 miles an hour, and these cars reach about 170 at the end of that straight, probably more than that, actually. So, and that, on that straightaway is a chance to look at your gauges, make sure everything is okay. So if you didn't see that flag, that's sort of understandable. I don't think he'll get a penalty for that, but I'm sure he will give up that position before we go back to green flag racing.
And the incident in turn one is under review, as we thought it would be. Yeah, when you see that long shot of them coming up the front or coming up the back straightaway, when the double yellow is displayed, he's kind of tucked up underneath Liberati a little bit. And as you said, it's the perfect opportunity to check your gauges, quick glance in the mirror to see what your competitors are doing. Then you look back up and the flag is out. So here's a look at why we're under full course caution. Liberati up the inside, and I just,
I'd be rather surprised if that wasn't a penalty. I mean, going into the corner, they were nose to tail in the sort of heading toward the second of the really three apexes at turn one. He just sort of dived to the inside in that second part. That's you're not going to make a pass there on somebody who's fast. Tom Long is fast and experienced, and Tom Long certainly wouldn't have been expecting somebody to try and make a move there. And of course, that's one of the things in racing. You try to go for the unexpected, but that was just a low percentage move, I think, by Gianno Torino. He's still relatively inexperienced, just his second season at this level. He's still only 18 years of age, originally from South Africa, from Johannesburg, South Africa, makes his home now in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. And he's clearly got a lot of talent. I mean, he hadn't done a lot of racing prior to joining this championship last season, and he was sort of shuffling around in different classes last year. He was clearly a youngster who had some talent. He started off in one of the lower classes and was kind of bumped up, and the team, run by his father Andrea, decided, look, we're going to sit out the end of last season and prepare properly for the 2022 season. That's what he's done. He's got Loris Spinelli, massively experienced in these cars, as you were saying, Brian Till, and it's a good combination. And Gianno is still learning, and learning quite rapidly, but that's I think a mistake that is probably going to have to put in the memory bank.
under full course caution at Virginia International Raceway, round 10 of the 2022 Lamborghini Super Trofeo North American Championship. And the problem in turn 1, contact between Gianno Torino aboard the 88 and the number 25 of Tom Long, Eduardo Piscopo, the innocent bystander in that. And as we were talking a little bit earlier, Billy Johnson aboard the 71, who had gotten past the 27 of Eduardo Liberati, has been moved back to second for that pass under yellow. So a lucky break for Billy Johnson. Fortunate that the officials decided not to penalize him for passing under yellow, but instead just put the position back. So Billy Johnson now back to second, and the pit window has been slid some backwards because of this incident down in turn 1. They're getting that cleaned up. Once they have it sorted, we'll go back to green, and once everyone is past start finish line, I would believe that they would open the pit lane.
That's right. So that was that instruction did come from race control for Eduardo Liberati to move back ahead again. So no harm, no foul there. That's sensible calls there all around. And we're going to be getting ready for pit stops. I think they're not. I don't. Well, is the lights out on the safety car?
Yes, lights out on the safety car.
I think. I'm not sure, honestly, but I believe you can come into the pits pretty much straight away. I don't think you have to go past start-finish line before the pits are open, but I might be wrong on that one.
It's going to be a real short stint for the second driver with only 23 minutes and counting down here at Virginia International Raceway. So once these cars make their mandatory pit stops, second drivers will hop in the 2-driver format, and the pits will open after the green and after all cars have taken the restart. Just getting that call from race control. So safety car is in. You must take the green, pass the pit in, and once everybody is passed, pit window will open. And wow, Billy Johnson, was the green flag out? Because Liberati must have been sleeping. Johnson rockets to the lead. Liberati now under threat from Kyle Marcelli in the number 1. I would imagine they're going to look at this restart, but what a move by Billy Johnson. We'll see if it sticks.
Yeah, well, I mean, as soon as it's called, you can go. You don't have to wait till the start-finish line like in some other series. Here, once the green is called, you can go. But the question is, had the green been called, was he anticipating it, or was it actually out? But look at this shuffling a little bit farther back down the field. We've got those 2 Italian liveried cars now separated with just 1 car in between them now. But, wow, that was a tremendous start by Billy Johnson. Whoops.
Wow, that was close in through the climbing S's. Couldn't tell exactly, or I should say through 4, 5, and 6. I couldn't tell exactly which car it was. It looked like it might have been the 46 of John Capestro de Betz. Not sure, but up on those curbs, you see a lot of dust coming off the rear tires, and a hairy moment through there for sure, because that curbing is very aggressive, and it's aggressive for a reason. They don't want you out there dropping wheels through those apexes, so you pay a price to be up on the curbs here at VIR.
There was a lot of shuffling positions at that restart. Richard Antonucci, surprisingly, was also caught out there. He lost a couple of positions as they crossed before they crossed the start-finish line to restart this race efficiently.
Not sure if Liberati kind of brake-checked everybody and held everyone up a little bit and created an accordion effect. But as you said, a lot of shuffling on that restart. Now down through Hogpen, the car 8-8 penalty, incident responsibility, drive-through. And that's exactly what we were expecting. And it cannot be served in conjunction with your scheduled pit stop. So several cars hitting pit lane now for the 88. They'll do their stop, and then they will have to come back. And there's a replay as of the green. I'd like to see it one more time and just kind of time that again.
It was tight, wasn't it?
It was tight, yeah. Tight indeed. So let's look. There's the flag. It's out. It is clearly out.
Yeah, and he's gone. Brilliant restart. Liberati there was too focused on keeping the cars behind him, and he wasn't paying attention to when the green flag was going to be waved. He didn't expect it to come out that soon, I think. But Billy Johnson, with all his experience, was ready, and he is gone, and he's in the lead of this race, and he's pulling out. Well, quite a few of the other cars came into the pit lane, including the second and third place cars of Liberati and Marcelli, but he's got a good lead now. He's going to take full advantage of it.
Absolutely, and here's what he also has. That's clear racetrack in front of him, Jeremy. He can go put down a couple of flyers right now, extend his lead a little bit, because remember, he's going to have to be on pit road for 3 seconds longer than these other competitors, so he wants to put the hammer down while he can, make some ground on this clean racetrack, put some qualifying laps in, and then come in and do his pit stop.
That's exactly right. And man, that was a fraught restart. But yeah, that penalty is going to be costly for that number 88 team. So the chances now of making it 4 in a row are pretty remote. But hey, never say never in this championship, because we've seen all sorts of unlikely things in the past. But Billy Johnson now, he's going to have a whole bunch of laps cars in his way. Cars have made their mandatory pit stop, rejoining the race, so they're going to be, it's going to take them half a lap or so to get up to speed, and he's going to negotiate some of that traffic, and that might be negating his potential advantage of staying out on the racetrack.
7 minutes to go in the pit window. It will close with 12 minutes remaining, and when Billy Johnson catches this traffic, they really should have called him in this lap, and that's what we were talking about. A couple of laps before you have to deal with that traffic. Get 1 or 2 in if you can, and then come in and pit, because this is going to take any advantage away that you had when you had some clean racetrack in front of you. I think he only got 1 lap before cars started to come back out, but now it's time to think about heading to pit road as soon as you can, because this traffic certainly is not going to help. What a restart, though. They played that perfectly, and they had a crew member in exactly the right spot, because Billy Johnson certainly couldn't have seen the green flag from there. He was called on the radio, and he reacted to it instantly.
He did. Brilliant effort there by Billy Johnson. And he's going to be charging as hard as he possibly can now. The number 88, who's that going? That's Randy Solari, isn't it?
Randy Solari, he had a problem in turn 11. We talked about earlier, that 11 to 12 area.
Yeah, and he's one of the cars that's not yet made his mandatory pit stop. So right now he is running 3rd place in the AM class. Shion Chandrasoma was out in front ahead of Nico Riga, so he made that move at the restart as well. That was a change for position and the AM leadership, as all the top 3 cars now are coming in. Nico Riga stays out and will lead this race in the AM lead in car number 48.
Billy Johnson on pit road. The battle to keep track of is between Richard Antonucci and the 23. Watch where he is on the racetrack. Look for him. I love the helmet, the pink helmet by the crew member who was just out there at the car. You're not going to miss him. As we said, the pit window will close with 12 minutes remaining, but I think everyone will have long pitted by then. The only car we're waiting for, like you said, is the 48. Nico Rieger behind the wheel right now. Where is Richard Antonucci on the racetrack? He's actually in pit lane, being shown in pit lane on my timing and scoring screen.
Yeah, I think Johnson came into the pits. The top 3 cars came into the pits. That was Johnson, Antonucci, and number 19, which is Shion Chandrasoma. So they all came into the pits. Nico Riga was the only one. Actually, Nico Riga was the only driver so far yet to make his mandatory pit stop. And Gianna Torino has just come in to make his 2nd stop. So that drive-through penalty has now been served by car number 88.
Billy Johnson now out of pit lane, back on the racetrack, and he's going to slot in behind the number 1, it looks like, of Danny Vermael. And the 23 now out.
That's Luke Berkeley at the wheel of that car now. They've changed teams since the last race. He was joined for the first time. Last time out at Road America was Luke Berkeley by Richard Antonucci, the most successful driver in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America Series. And they've made the switch over to the Torino Racing with D Motorsport for this weekend and have been running strongly all through the weekend. Meantime, having made their pit stops, they're still not leading the race because Nico Riga is out front, but the two cars that have made their stops, the number 27 and the number 1 car, Dario Capitano now at the wheel of number 27, having taken over from Edoardo Liberati, and Danny Formal has resumed from Kyle Marcelli. They are still locked together as Nico Riga brings that number 48 car into the pits. It'll be David Starb that takes over for the remaining, 15 minutes of this race.
Just inside 15 minutes to go from round 10 of the 2022 Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America Championship, and it has been a good one to this point. Championship stories throughout all 4 classes have changed complexion throughout the weekend, up and down mostly for the 25, the Pro-Am championship leaders Tom Long, Ashton Harrison. Problems yesterday, a mechanical issue, and then contact today has put them out of the race and perhaps out of the championship hunt. But the battle for the lead on the racetrack is heating up. Danny Formal aboard the number 1, really putting pressure now on the 27, Dario Capitano, and Billy Johnson, who had been leading just before pit stops, in third and beginning to close on this duo that is fighting for the overall lead. Formal definitely wants it, looks inside, tight move there, gets it done, and is past the 27, out in front. And this is what Formal and Marcelli needed after being without a victory over the last 3 races. It was Laura Spinelli and Gianno Torino who have won the last 3 in a row and have been to close down a little bit on the championship leaders, Formal and Marcelli. Forceful move right there by Formal, got it done, and now out in front.
Yeah, and how did they get ahead of Bill Johnson on that previous lap? There's a bit of a bump from behind there by Danny Formal to move the 27 car out of the way. That's the stewards are going to be looking at that one. But I'm wondering, I'm pretty sure on the previous lap, well, maybe they came into the pits. Maybe the number 71 car was a slower stop. Let's have a look at the timing. Yes,
it was a slower stop.
A slower stop for Billy Johnson. He lost 4 seconds on the pit lane compared to the cars in front of him.
Well, he had to lose 3.
3, exactly, because as a single driver team, he should lose 3. But actually, he lost 5, in fact, to Danny Formal, the number 1 car. And that is the difference between first position and third for Billy Johnson.
Yeah, so some type of a miscue on pit lane. And speaking of miscues and a little forceful action, see that there, that was coming up into 11, the 42 past the 48. And a little push and
there
shove.
Making that pass on David Starr, but of course just come out of the pit lane.
Now rocketing down through the roller coaster. Oh, that's tight. That's 88. Trying to put the pressure on, trying to get down to the inside and get the position. It was just tight. Laura Spinelli, we always talk about his skill and experience in a Lamborghini, trying to put it to use there, but nothing doing. I believe that's the 54 he's working on right there, and it is. Takes the position and then past Slade Stewart.
Yeah, this is all the battle for the LB Cup class lead, effectively. Anthony McIntosh leads it in car number 49. He's just up the road a little bit ahead of this little group, as Laura Spinelli, having that number 88 car, has got his way through. But the pink car is Slade Stewart. Right behind him is Charlie Martin, who was on the pole yesterday. She did a super job in qualifying. Unfortunately, had some dramas in the race, but that's a really good battle going on for second position in the AM class.
Pit window is now closed. It's been closed since the 12-minute mark. Everyone has met their obligatory pit stop, and so that is taken care of. And now it's just about getting your head down and focusing forward. For Dario Capitano, it's going to be hard to focus forward when you've got Billy Johnson all over your rear wing, and he has been a rocket ship today. Can he get past Capitano with a run down to turn 1? We'll find out. Looks to the inside, nothing doing this time. Now to the outside. It's going to be the over and under. He's going to try to cut back underneath and perhaps get alongside as they head down to turn 3 and 4. Capitano doing a good job defending here, Jeremy.
Yeah.
All fair, hasn't moved in response. He's putting that car, as you like to say, just in a position where it's just difficult for Johnson to make a move. He's not blocking, he's not moving in response, just making that Lamborghini with that low stance a little bit wider.
Yeah, that's fair enough. All is fair in love and war. And this is warfare out there right now. It has been between several of the contenders in this race. But look, what a fabulous day to go racing on a gorgeous racetrack here at Virginia International Raceway. The place is in absolutely tip-top condition. This is a super battle now. Whoops, there's an off-road. That's Charlie Martin who's off the road again. She had a few excursions yesterday. Scored her first win at Road America a few weeks ago. Had her first pole position, not her first pole position. She's had several pole positions in the LB Cup classes. So she had a couple. Help there from Randy Soleri, I think, wasn't it?
She had a lot of help from Randy Soleri. Be interesting to see if the officials take a look at that. And obviously, as an official, you never want to see contact on the racetrack to begin with, but it's stressed in every driver's meeting. Just because you are in a higher class from a rating standpoint, Pro-Am, and LB Cup, gives you absolutely no right to force your way through. You don't get any added benefits or the benefit of saying, well, you're a pro driver. In fact, they look at it and say, you're a pro driver, you should know better. So the further up the ladder you go, the more responsibility you have as an overtaking driver to get past some of these drivers who are in, we'll call it lower categories. And I hate that term because it sounds bad, but certainly there are 4 different classes that are out there right now. And just because you're in one of the higher classes gives you no additional rights.
It does not, and that'll be something certainly that the stewards always pay attention to, as you say. And at the meantime, though, this battle for second and third is continuing. Dario Capitano's got his head down now. He's not focusing on what's going on behind him. He's focusing forward and certainly some good lap times.
And the incident with Randy Soleri and the 54 of Charlie Martin is under review by the officials. And for Billy Johnson, keeps hounding Capitano. But like you said, Jeremy, I feel like in the beginning, Dario Capitano was kind of on the back foot trying to find the handle on that Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2. And speaking of finding a handle, going backwards, certainly going backwards was the 13, literally going backwards at the exit of turn 2. And don't know if that was on his own. John Hirschman, let's see. Yep. I think the car in front gets a little wiggle, and he might lift off the throttle a little bit, going, what's happening with this car in front? When he does, tail just steps out and around he goes. No harm, no foul, no contact, and back underway.
Yep. So that was the car that won yesterday in the LB Cup class. Meanwhile, Danny Formal, he's got his head down. He just set a new fastest lap of the race on the previous lap, which is completed 21 laps. His 20th lap was the fastest of the race by anybody, a 1:45.71 for Danny Formal. So he is getting on with the case here.
Inside
seven. Dario Capitano,
Inside 7 minutes to go, and the call from race control does indeed come down. Randy Soleri in car 3 will have a drive-through penalty for incident responsibility with the 54, so he'll have to be coming to pit road. And a couple of slow-moving vehicles on the racetrack right now. Don't know if there was some contact there, but somebody seemed off pace through the 3 and 4 complex. Off pace, Dario Capitano certainly is not. He has managed to pull out maybe another car length over Billy Johnson. That's certainly not getting away. From all leads in Pro, then Bryson Liu. In Pro-Am, Sheehan Sandersoma leads in the Am category. And in LB Cup, where's my leader in LB Cup?
Anthony McIntosh. Yeah.
And a great debut for McIntosh.
Really impressive. I mean, yesterday had a tremendous run. Had a couple of spins during the race. He came back and couldn't quite get past Ophir Levy in the closing stages. I think he sort of discretion the better part of valor there. He'd made a couple of mistakes, didn't want to make a third, and perhaps cause some damage. So he was settled for the second place yesterday, did Anthony McIntosh from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but doing a nice job now and well clear of the LB Cup Championship point leader, Slade Stewart.
Yeah, a great debut, and we talked about this in the race yesterday. I mean, I think for Anthony McIntosh, he's one of those guys who's been through something in life that kind of opens your eyes, and then you say, hey, anything that I wanted to achieve, I need to achieve now, because you never know if it's going to be taken away from you. He very big into the outdoors, and he had just climbed El Capitan in Yosemite National Park back in, I believe it was 2019, came home and got very sick, ended up being a bacterial infection. It almost took his life. And he said, while he was recuperating from that, he was ready to get back into the gym and get back in shape and attack life again. And then the pandemic set in with COVID, and all the gyms were closed. And the only thing he could find that he could go do was drive a race car, which he had never done, and said, well, that seems like it might be fun. Went and did it, became hooked. And here he is a couple of years later in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Also has done some MX-5 stuff at the Mazda series, and is just, I think it's a great attitude, and so many of us don't do that. You get focused on daily life and you forget that, hey, you still have to live a little bit, and that message was certainly delivered to Anthony McIntosh.
Yeah, it's very cool. Really is a great story there all the way around, and he's got hooked up with a few guys that have helped him along the to make this transition. Tyler Cook and Glenn McGee in particular have helped him out. Glenn McGee is an iRacing absolute superstar in iRacing, and he's racing in the MX-5 Cup Series, which is what Anthony has done for the last couple of years. And the opportunity came up just a month or so ago to go over to Europe and drive one of these Lamborghinis for the Lippert Racing team in a Creventic race. That's what he did, got some experience in these cars, and said, okay, let's go. And here he is now with the Precision Performance Motorsports team. Hadn't tested the car. Not even sure. I spoke to him yesterday. I don't think he's raced here before either. But he's done a really nice job. That's Anthony McIntosh in caliber 49.
And a big problem for Loris Spinelli, the 88 down left front tire on his car, and that is huge in the championship for Danny Formal and Kyle Marcelli. You can see the left front beginning to come apart aboard the 88. He needs to be careful with that, because if it completely disintegrated, it takes body work with him, but every moment that he's off throttle coasting down that back straightaway, he's losing precious time and falling down the order in the field, already back to 6th in the Pro Championship, and that is a big point swing for he and Gianno Torino.
Yeah, that's exactly what he doesn't need, and already coming into this race with the he made some ground toward the leader yesterday by winning the race at Loris Spinelli along with Gianno Torino, but they're going to lose quite a lot of ground here. And Kyle Marcelli and Danny Formal with the maximum points in this race, they're going to be close with the problems also for Piscopo and Cuyalo, who were taken out in an incident with Gianno Torino and whoever it was, and Tom Long a few early on in this race. That is going to make the championship position look even brighter for Danny Formal and Kyle Marcelli.
We have a maximum of 16 points for each race on a weekend, so a maximum of 32 for the event. If you get the pole position and you win the race, that's 16 points. So it's one of those deals. Oh, Slade Stewart gets wide up in 10, and around he goes, no contact. And he'll get back underway and rejoin the racetrack. But look, I had a little help, I think.
Yeah.
Charlie Martin in the 54, I believe, is who that car was. Let's watch one more time. Up through the climbing S's. And yeah, just the excitement. The excitement continues.
I hope not.
I hope not.
Geesh, that was a fairly major incident, though.
Well, yeah, and for Slade Stewart, that was for position.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what the officials, and already it's under review. It's come up on timing and scoring. It is under review. And I think one of the things about that pass is Charlie Martin, she's so far to the left, you kind of lose visibility as the leading car. They're no longer in your mirror if you're that far left anymore, and you kind of lose track of them. I think Slade Stewart may have seen her right at the last minute, and he tries to stay out to the outside. but I think Charlie Martin gets it in there and maybe a little too much speed. The contact is made and off Slade Stewart goes.
Yeah, so that was, are we coming up now for the
white flag?
White flag, yeah, 21 seconds to go. There is the white flag for Danny Formal, who's pulled out a huge lead now over that battle for second place, with Dario Capitano continue to hold off Billy Johnson. Billy Johnson, I'm sure, is faster, but he just can't find a way past the Italian into second place.
And so what is going through Danny Formal's mind right now, Jeremy? He knows that his nearest competitor in the championship had a tire problem, but guess what? He's got 3+ miles of racetrack in front of him that he could have some type of a problem. There's debris on the racetrack, cars falling off left and right. What's he thinking?
He's thinking, bring it home, bring it home. But look, he's still turning really good lap times. Last time around was a 1:46.3. I mean, that's only a half a second away from his fastest lap of the race. So it's been a tremendous performance once again by Danny Formal. He was a little bit frustrated yesterday, missed out on the pole position, which is worth a championship point by only a tenth of a second or so. But he's come back today and really, really made his mark. He's a great story, is Danny. He's 26 years of age now. Was an outstanding karter for many, many years, but couldn't make the break into car racing. And a couple of years ago, he got an opportunity from the Ansa Motorsports team, Alan Liddell and Patrick Otto-Madsen. They gave him an opportunity to drive one of these cars, and he grabbed it with both hands. He was picked up subsequently by Wayne Taylor Racing, and he's doing an absolutely masterful job here this afternoon. That's Danny Formal in car number 1.
And you used the term frustrated. Charlie Martin's going to be frustrated as she gets a drive-through time equivalent penalty post-race for the contact that we just saw with Slade Stewart. Been a bit of a dry spell for Danny Formal and Kyle Marcelli leading the championship, but winless over the last 3 rounds. Winless no more as Formal and Marcelli win in Lamborghini Super Trofeo in the pro category at Virginia International Raceway. Heady drives from Marcelli in the opening going, powerful stuff, and great speed aboard the number 1 in Pro-Am. Bryson Liu, John Capestro de Betz take the win there, and they will extend the championship lead that they took yesterday in round 9 of the season. Sheehan Chandrasoma takes the victory in the Am category, and Anthony McIntosh, what a story, on debut will win in LB Cup at VIR. Great stuff, Jeremy. Great stuff. Yeah. Great action all around.
Yeah, really good race there. You talked about that Am class. That's the 5th win out of the last 7 races for Sheehan Chandrasoma in that MCR race in car number 19. And that's with the second place finish for David Starr. So that's going to bring them to within 4 points heading into the final races. Actually, Nico Riga got a point for pole position, so that'll be 118 points to the 113 for Sheehan Chandrasoma. Just 5 points between them then heading into the season finale.
What do you think is going through Anthony McIntosh's mind right now? Debut weekend in Lamborghini, and he takes the checkered flag.
Yeah, relief. I mean, he came away with a clear win in the end with that problem for Charlie Martin, of course, with the penalty and the incident with Slade Stewart. But it was a really fine performance. He knows he should have won the race yesterday, and today he got it done. So he'll be relieved, he'll be elated, I'm sure, because as you say, only a couple of years ago did he even find out about motor racing effectively, and he has absolutely grasped it with both hands. And that was a really fine performance by him all weekend long. Really inspiring story, and very, very cool for Anthony McIntosh. But the man of the day, no doubt about it, is Danny Formal. That was a tremendous performance. Kyle Marcelli did a perfect opening stint and handed the car in the lead after the pit stops to Danny Formal, who did the rest from... Actually, he was in second place, wasn't he? He had to pass Dario Capitano and then pulled away and scored a very, very accomplished victory. That's win number 4 on the season for Kyle Marcelli at Danny Formal.
Great weekend here at Virginia International Raceway, and only 2 races left and a world champion to be crowned in Lamborghini Super Trofeo action. Championships tighter than ever. Some seem to be stretching a little bit but still very close. None of the four yet to be decided just how close this championship is. Thanks for joining us, everyone. For Jeremy Shaw, I'm Brian Till. Lamborghini Super Trofeo, one of the most exotic single-make classes you will see anywhere in the world. Thanks for joining us from BIR. Take care.